In this, here's the replay coming up. We'll see this as soon as we are able. And yeah, take it away, Rapid.
All right, so we're going to drop into a replay. It's about 22 minutes in, 23 minutes in at this bottom turret, and this is actually one of the good fights for Ignition. Now, Dream Casper, he's going to do the best job I've ever seen of his Zed to avoid all that burst damage coming in, and while, sure, Ikenny was trying to go in, he actually got dropped too low to be effective in this fight. Now, this chase is what is so good for Ignition, and what winds up being a big play by Dream Casper. You're to see Bell go in with a nice Glacial Fissure, but Golden Glue too far up to take all that much damage. But look at this over the wall. We got Blem, who's just looking like he's all about the engage. Drops in the Tri-Brush, so he's going to die, but look at the follow-up here. Exo in the back, once again being protected by his support, has so much zone and pressure to deal damage, but doesn't actually wind up getting any auto attacks off, and by the time he turns around to auto attack, that's when Low Pally re-engages. But now, Dream Casper, he's so low. He's not very healthy, but he does have shurikens to dish out over the wall. And so right now, Complexity think he's out of the fight. They just got a triple kill onto Golden Glue, so they're feeling good about themselves. And if the replay actually does continue, you'd actually see Dream Casper come in for an incredible double kill, and it looks like it actually will continue as Complexity, so that they mill around a little bit after the fight, and so you're thinking, all right, they won the fight. I believe they do try to disengage up to the top because they catch out Alarim, and while he actually survives, over the wall comes Dream Casper for a double kill to make that a big turnaround for Ignition. That really started things going and made it a much more difficult game for Complexity to close out.
And Complexity did not throw their lead, as it just after that point became just dominant in their favor. They were able to expand their lead from 4 to 3 towers to 3 to 7 towers, dropping an inhibitor as well, getting that middle pressure going in. And again, we just see Complexity they might have started in with the run and gun technique, but I mean, how did that change throughout the game? They won it, they did what they needed to do, but we saw a shift there.
Exactly. You saw what Complexity's strategy was. You pick the Nocturne top, and then you just 3-man dive anyone you can possibly find. And while it was a cool strategy towards the mid-game, their engage kind of got the better of them, and they started to get a little bit more coordinated, which gave Ignition some hope. Couldn't get it started there at the end, and in the end of that fight, it'll be Complexity who advance on to the next round of these lower brackets. We're going to take things out to a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we'll have Final Five as they take on Inertia Gaming. So you don't want to miss the Wonder Kid of Washington and all of his friends. Coming up next, stick around. We'll be right back.
of metal has begun, and metal shall prevail. For we know what they have done. 5 legends of our realm who sought to follow the path of their dark musings. But they did not know what they had summoned. Pentakill. To these creatures, there is but one thing left to do. Heavy metal.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the North American Challenger League. My name is Reed Rapid Melton, and joining me is Chase Schaff. We're hopping into our second series of the night as Final 5 take on Inertia Gaming for what could be one of the best games that we've seen so far.
Yeah, really, really intense. Final 5 just coming off a weekend down in Los Angeles, too. They're definitely warmed up, ready to go. I believe you were there, right?
Yeah, I was down at the NALCS expansion tournament, got to talk to these guys, took pictures with them. Was hashtag big fan of them all and looking forward to seeing them in tonight's games. Now, keep in mind, we are in the NACL losers bracket. So a team lost tonight means that you're actually out of the tournament. And only one team can advance to the LAN finals at the end of this month. And you got to make it all the way through the bracket. Final 5. Lost 2-0 to Mandatory Cloud's Storm Gaming earlier on. And honestly, let's talk about a little bit about the brackets. You can see them on your screen right now. Enemy Esports making a big run through two of the better teams in the tournament. Took out Complexity, took out Zenith, and they are joining Storm as the two teams qualified for the grand finals.
Yeah, really incredible game by Mandatory Cloud Games, I should say, for just all 5, in both series for Mandatory Cloud. Really great job here, and we'll see Final 5 unable to kind of contain the beast there. Final 5's Gate, again, their mid laner doing a really great job here last weekend. We'll see how that plays out. Definitely the place to look so far. But then also for facing off against Inertia, who lost 2 games in a row. The first one close against Cognitive, again, in that really epic base race, if you saw that last week.
Oh, my goodness. That was one of the best series we've had. And that's what makes me say that this could be, a great series to check out. So thanks for sticking around. It looks like we could be ready for picks and bans here in just a second. But once we get done with these brackets, like we said, losers bracket out here. Yep. It's winner go home. So last chance to make it through to the grand finals. And for the winner of this series, they have to face off against Zenith Esports, a team that looked good while they were in the upper bracket, but has kind of started to fall apart. So let's go ahead and hop into champion picks and bans here in just a second. And honestly, already we know what some of the bans are going to be. Shorter Race should draw some Lee Sin bans. Gate this weekend, I was talking to him about his champion pool because it's incredibly diverse. You think with a name like Gate, you're just good at Twisted Fate and Jace, but he pulled out very, very strong Azir. I think he was a total of like 8, 5, and 12 over the course of the expansion tournament on Azir, so might see some bans targeted that way too.
Yeah, really great job. He really is an everyman in that he can play a lot of different mid characters, almost all of them, I would say. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of mid-focused bans against Final 5 here, but we could see, again, Senpai number 1 and Senpai number 2 on Inertia. Well, that's how we'll refer to them.
Don't even get me started on these guys.
Oh, my Lord.
Chances that you just so happen to draft players for your teams that, oh, by the way, have exactly the same name is kind of interesting. And keep in mind, it's not exactly the same name. The Senpai number 1 has a carrot over the eye.
The jungler.
Senpai number 2 is the mid laner, actually has an accent over there. So gotta keep yourself on your toes as we hop in here to picks and bans. Already a Rumble and a Jace ban versus Isunari. So targeting his champion pool. And honestly, when you look at the team the player lineup for Inertia, one of the biggest strengths has been their captain and top laner, Isunari. He has professional experience from playing top lane for CSUS and the collegiate scene, and is bringing that experience here to Inertia. Yeah,
and we've really seen, especially last week again, a lot of bans faced against him, really trying to focus him down, and I guess that kind of worked last week because he was unable to really get a lot going with his Maokai or his Gnar, so I don't think we'll see a Rek'Sai ban, speaking of not being able to see.
Wait a second.
And he is the newest character to join all of you guys on Summoner Rift here for League of Legends. So, again, I mean, break down Rek'Sai for me and why it's a ban. I mean, that's just
probably being banned just because it's new. And keep in mind the reason that it is, or that it can be banned, is that both Rek'Sai and Kalista are playable on this patch, not just in the game but also in the NACL. So could see some exciting picks over the course of this series. But for now, we're already with a big ban on a Rek'Sai. He's very, very strong in the jungle. I've seen some really interesting strategies using his incredible early game mobility. He's a really cool champion. If you haven't checked him out, encourage encourage you to do so, but we won't be checking him out here in Game 1.
No, not yet. And speaking of his power, he actually is slightly broken in the top lane because of his lack of a cooldown on tunneling. So he could literally create tunnels in circles and tunnels back to his tower, away from his tower, to the enemy's tower, as long as you don't step on him and break him. So I don't think Rux would really want to deal with that.
It's pretty interesting. But let's talk about what Rux will be dealing with. He's got a Gnar already locked in for himself, and honestly, you can just give that to the strength of his team on their champions, forcing out a ban on Vayne, on Prototype's Vayne, ban on Shorter Ace's Lee Sin, and then that last ban on Lissandra targeted up there towards Rux. He played Lissandra 3 or 4 times this weekend, and while he didn't put up necessarily big scores on her, it was one of the power picks in the top lane and will continue to be so.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to agree with you, Rapid, on that, Mark, on that last week as well. We saw Rux twice in both of his games play Gnar. The first one, very tight, very well done. Assists, teleporting everywhere he's required. Too bad the base race again ended that game. Second game, unable to really do enough as Gnar, so we'll see here what exactly he's going to do. And we don't see Inertia's top pick yet, but we do see an AD carry and a summoner pick, Corki and Janna off the bat for Inertia there.
And honestly, the pickups on your bottom lane first aren't something that we see very often with this sort of captain's pick phase where there are 5 bans involved. In case you guys aren't familiar with that, it's 3 bans, 3 picks, and then 2 bans, and then 2 picks afterwards. And the reason you don't see too many duo lanes locked in is because your first 3 picks are really important. If you don't pick up a lane in your first 3 picks, then you risk having it very heavily banned out, maybe 4 or 5 bans against it. And we don't see that here. And locking in 2 of the strongest champions in their roles is very, very good thing for Inertia, because honestly, their bottom lane didn't show up in their previous series. They lost 0-2 to Cognitive, and while some of the games were close and interesting, one thing that was consistently true is the struggle of the bottom lane to perform.
Yeah, Zion and GG Bay, I guess, are wanting that confidence going into this first game, picking up an AD carry and a support first. But speaking of a great champion in his role, Jarvan IV picked up for Shorter Ace at jungle. I think the Wonder Kid of Washington's got not a lot up his sleeve here, because we just know Jarvan IV is such a powerful jungle these days.
I think he definitely has a few things up his sleeves. This weekend at the North American LCS expansion tournament, he pulled out Zac jungle, he pulled out Lulu jungle, so he's got some stuff up there. But for now, Jarvan IV, a very standard jungle pick, not any big surprise there. And a common misconception with Shorter Ace, you've all seen his top 6 all-time Reddit League of Legends Lee Sin mobility videos, and so people think, hey, he can just play that champion, but he's actually got a very diverse jungle pool, and Jarvan right at the top of not only that pool, but also of the jungle tier lists out there, very strong, and interesting to see what it'll go up against now that Lee Sin, Jarvan, they're banned out. Could see some Elise out there. Actually just saw some buffs for Elise on the PBE, so maybe some exciting times for some more ability power junglers out there.
Yeah, definitely. And again, Shorter Ace with playing last week, he had a Warwick jungle, he had a Rengar jungle. I mean, all pretty solid one-on-one, kind of just trying to attack you here. Jarvan IV definitely tankier, doing a really good job here as a team, and I think Final 5 is looking to correct all the mistakes they made last game. Looking for something slightly different, though, is a Kalista AD carry. Actually, I can't confidently say it's a Kalista AD carry, because we have seen her, just like the Ezreal mid, I've seen her at mid on occasion. So,
I'm more expecting her to be that AD carry, and like we said, Rek'Sai, Kalista, Azir, all the champions you want to play, they're available. And so excited to see a little bit something new. We saw a ban on Rek'Sai, not wanting to deal with that, but now picking up the Kalista, so much mobility in that champion, and a lot of kiting.
Absolutely. Almost considered the support AD carry if there's such a dichotomy there, especially with the ability to bind to another ally for just additional buffs here and there. Again, mobility, so quick on her feet. And then again, a Vi set up here for Senpai #1, and we saw that out last week in the first game against, Cognitive, and not quite an overwhelming performance, but definitely a similar matchup for Jarvan IV.
Yeah, exactly. And now Vi, a champion that we see out here, usually a secondary picks, but honestly, that was one of the stronger performances from the Senpai in the jungle. And honestly, I like to see it versus Jarvan, because it gives you the ability to be mobile in spite of that Cataclysm, able to get in and out with the Vault Breaker, and still able to transcend that divide with the Cataclysm too.
Well, to further define this captain's draft, it is now in the second round of bans where each team gets 2 bans, starting with Inertia, then going back to Final 5 for 2, then back to Inertia, just like that snaking pick. So we start with a LeBlanc ban on Gate. So again, mid bans, I'm kind of contested a little bit for, because I think Gate just has that ability to play whoever we want. We saw that last game here out of Mandatory Cloud with his Orianna. So just a very wide pick. We'll see if Gate can rein it in, though. And there is an Aurelia ban because Isunari, the team captain of Inertia, has yet to pick a champion. What does this mean here for them?
You're going to see, if you want to count the Jace as a top lane ban, that's a total of 3 towards there. And with Gnar picked up by Rux, that really sets him in a great position to deal with just about anything that gets thrown his way. And Azir ban is the last one, so double banning Gate there in the last 2. And that's what I was talking about, this new way to handle pick and ban. If you don't grab a champion role early on, you risk having it very heavily banned against. So you can see only the Lissandra banned out as either a top or mid lane ban, and then didn't pick up a mid lane pick for Final 5, and now in the final ban phase, having 2 more put on towards Gate. Now, like I said, Gate does have a very diverse champion pool. I feel like, I think in their first series versus Team Coast, he actually played 5 different champions in every single one of those games.
Wow.
So really, really cool to see the depth that is in there, but having a few different success rates on there. And so we've also got to keep in mind the Zed ban came out there too. So really, really limited pool. To talk about that as the last ban. Now into our second pick phase of the night.
Yeah, so Senpai number 2, again, a little bit problem with banning one role exactly, especially when you haven't picked it yet, as Inertia hasn't, is that a lot of the big mid picks that we've seen, excluding Orianna and excluding Syndra, which are getting a lot of plays in the meta these days, are off the table here for Senpai number 2. And there's the Orianna they're going to pick up there. So it's going to go...
I think you meant the LeBlanc and Azir.
Yeah, LeBlanc and Azir versus the Orianna and Syndra. So Orianna will get picked up. It'll go back to Final 5 for their final 2 picks here, where we'll see our mid and we'll see our support.
Right, and the mid lane pick, I want to say it should be a Syndra. There's also Xerath that's out there, although I've been seeing Xerath kind of fade out of the meta, at least recently. So not gone, or not forgotten, but definitely in favor of champions like LeBlanc, like Zed, that are both starting to see a little bit more popularity. And no surprise there, with the Janna taken away from Rule 18, defaulting back to the Nami is something that's very consistent with Final 5's play from the expansion tournament this weekend. Rule 18 always known as a Janna player, not just because he's ridiculously good at it, but also because it's Prototype Black's favorite champion to play with. So defaulting to Nami still very, very strong, but a very big difference from our first series of the night, where we saw primarily melee-based, hard-engaged champions.
Of course, Prototype Black here is Prototype White, so, I mean, he'll love to play
Changing
with...
colors all over the place, but he is a prototype. We'll see if it's a little bit more successful here tonight. And honestly, the AD carry I'm most excited to see Prototype play. Well, it's going to be Callista here, but this weekend it was his Caitlyn. He brought it out. It was so effective and really caught a lot of teams off guard. But this time around, it's a very, very different idea. The big struggle that I feel that I see here for Nami, and one of the big synergies with Callista, is that there's such a tight bond between Callista, literally, with her support. When you throw Nami into their team, it becomes a little bit like fishing. You're tossing out the bait there, and a lot of times it gets eaten. So maybe it means melee range shockwaves. Maybe it means we'll see if Rule 18's up to the challenge.
Well, of course, they're fishing with spears because Kalista is one of the greatest spear throwers in the game, up next to Nidalee and, of course, Pantheon there. Completely sidebar,
well, I mean,
though.
it's more of a spear toss
there you go.
I don't know.
Again, correcting me on every ability as what should be done here. And then a Twisted Fate there.
You go.
So Gate really going, sticking with his britches, sticking with his name there. And, of course, Isunari going to pick up the Maokai with Nargon. We saw this last week. He's going to go ahead and pick up, again, Maokai, especially when he's very comfortable in that role.
Now, what's interesting about the Twisted Fate pick is, while you might say, oh, well, his name's Gate, you'd expect him to pick Twisted Fate. He didn't have very good Twisted Fate performances this past weekend in the LCS expansion tournament. And that's not necessarily because he's not good at the champion. champion. It's because Twisted Fate occupies a very, very niche spot in team compositions, and so isn't flexible enough to be able to just drop in there as any mid lane pick, like something like, an Orianna or a Syndra, much more flexible in the kind of team comps they fit in. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how this combos with the Kalista pick in the bottom. The new champion, and does offer a lot of hard CC that you can combo Twisted Fate ganks with. Either way, one thing's for sure, Gate is going to be using not only his name, but also the ability to have a big effect on the map.
Yes, that being said, it's going to be a really interesting battle at mid lane, as it's been a pretty big, League of Legends is known for the action being at the mid lane. Of course, we'll see all of this happen before your eyes in this first game against Final 5 and Inertia. Again, winner goes home. Winner plays Cognitive. And
loser goes home.
Loser
if the
goes
winner
home.
went
Oh,
home,
did I
it'd
just
be a
say
little
winner
bit
went home?
counterintuitive. But yeah,
No,
winner will go home.
Loser. You just said, there it is again. Loser goes home. Winner plays
I'm done
Cognitive.
here.
Yeah, I think we're
We're
going
going
to
to
need
a
a quick break, real quick. And as the players get loaded up, the ban and picks are in here. We'll make sure we don't make any big egregious faux pas like the one right there while giving you this game. This is game 1 here at the NACL Series 2 today. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll see you again in just a minute. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen of the North American Challenger League. My name is Reed Rapid Melton. Joining me is Shay Schaff, and we're hopping into our first game, our second series of the night. It's going to be a team that I honestly have been waiting to see play their lower bracket final for a long time. It's Final Five, and they'll be in the blue taking on, honestly, a team that didn't have all that bad a game in the upper bracket, but just lost the narrowest of games to Cognitive. It's Inertia coming out in the red.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching Final Five. Really entertaining despite the 2 losses last week. Mandatory Cloud, again, was the one who was able to shut down Gate Middle. So we see Senpai number 2 coming out here with a heal, so we may be a little bit on the less aggressive side, knowing that Twisted Fate, it could be a better one-on-one matchup in the lane.
Yeah, and what's true about most matches versus Orianna is that you don't necessarily, no champion, or at least no mid lane champion, like just loses hardcore to Orianna. Some that maybe can't really deal with wave clear, have more of a struggle, but she's not that aggressive champion like, Zed or LeBlanc that's just going to kill you over and over again in lane. As long as, you're careful. But with Twisted Fate, Gate, it's his main champion, but we still have yet to see how it fits into this team composition. And speaking of fitting into the team comp, it's the NACL debut. A prototype black here, prototype white on Kalista.
Yeah, and a debut as well for Kalista itself. We have yet to see a ban from her, and obviously not because she has not been played at all. So we have the first play of Kalista here on Prototype White with Rule 18, and we see the bond made there with the Nami, which is going to make for a very interesting bot lane. I mean, again, Nami, very, very powerful support right now.
And one of the reasons that Nami is such a strong support with Kalista is you can already see there's Ebb and Flow skilled level 1, but the real synergy comes from Tidecaller's Blessing. It gives you additional magic damage and a slow on your auto attacks, but the real thing that Prototype White and Rule 18 have, at least from their bond, is going to be their Oathsworn bonus magic damage by skilling up Sentinel. It gives you 12% max HP damage on your auto attacks when it gets skilled up, and it's just going to be so much damage on those auto attacks with the synergy between those two. Something to keep an eye on.
And Riot Games, of course, playing with new 80 carries here who are working hand in hand with their supports. More than most here. Kalista definitely a big pick here. And already some early aggression from GGBay and Zion here out of this Corki, Edge, and Jaina combo.
Yeah, whenever you see an 80 carry a little bit lower in HP, you know that the only way they're going to get health back is either by, auto-attacking a bunch or getting the sustain out there from Rule. And actually, Prototype White putting a lot of spears in Zion, but they don't stick yet. Still only level 1, now level 2. Going to have that synergy when they both go in together, but not when it's just Prototype auto-attack.
Yeah, definitely. And again, pretty conventional start here. I think, different because out of the first series today, we saw a lot of early aggression, a lot of early kills, a lot of first bloods here. And as 3 minutes approaches, nothing out of the ordinary going on here. And just like you were saying with Orianna's Senpai number 2 middle, I mean, just not going to clearly win a lane, not going to clearly lose, perfectly content with a tie. And that's just Orianna's ability to CC and the ability to have such great range. Oh, and here's an early gank coming, looks like, from, it seems to be Shorter Ace here. And he's getting close, but he's just going to go ahead and back. No,
Wait
he's
a second.
in.
Zion walked right into him, and GGBay's right there. They're both going to split and head back for the hills. Turret will save GGBay's life, but face checking into Shorter Ace and still no deaths. So all in all, a win there for Inertia, but still going to take a lot of damage to be behind in their lane.
Well, that play by Shorter Ace, you got to beg the question, why go after GGBay as opposed to Zion?
Well, Zion had already Valkyried away, and plus if it's just Shorter Ace chasing, he didn't have any more CC because he had already used his jump, and Prototype and Rule would have been very, very far behind, so not a lot of follow-up onto that. Better to try to go for the sure thing, and they did force out that flash from GGBay, so she will be more vulnerable if that game comes back around.
And Prototype White doing a really great job of moving as Kalista moves away from Zion's Phosphorus bombs. Hopefully it doesn't move too far into him, and is able to easily dodge the turret fire there with that movement speed, though. And that bond still really working well to keep the aggression on, and we see Shorter Ace leave, so I think Inertia could be a little bit more comfortable with this bottom lane at this point.
I was going to elaborate on what Prototype's passive Martial Poise does, but actually using that to get all the way on up into there, gonna go for the spear that won't find a kill, but now an exhaust actually popped down onto GGBay. Here's Shorter Ace coming in. He has one auto attack, but it's Prototype White going for the flash. There's the kill. Can he pick up another one? The turret shot. Will it pick up a kill? Double for Shorter Ace. But in the end, it will be a double right back towards Zion. picking up 2 for himself.
Even Kalisa's natural passive could not let her get away from that turret fire. She got a little bit too far in GGBay's face. The turret was smashing her down, and Zion doing a great job of making the most out of a pretty terrible 3-on-2 situation. Bottom. 5 minutes into the game, already great work on Zion to get those kills back so that the lane is tight. He picks up a Phage to get a little bit more of a kind of a balanced attack, because he knows that, I think, by this point, Prototype White and Rule 18 mean business, and they're going to go in hard.
Yeah, Prototype White there. You've heard of go big or go home. He did both of them at the same time. Went back to base the hard way with a death timer, but he still let Shorter Ace grab 2 kills, and you can already see that he's, picking up another gank mid. So Shorter Ace, no rest for the weary. He's clocking in for overtime, and he's already putting in work, both bottom lane and mid lane too.
Well, great job there sticking beneath the turret. Again, Orianna is not the type, especially with Senpai number 2's ability to play her, to lose easily or to get ganked easily. She just has that kind of range and prowess, but both the jungles seem to be sticking around mid lane, and where you would have seen Senpai go back early, she pops a pot and stays in the lane.
Now, one of the different things that we're starting to see here, like I was talking about earlier, is the transition with this 4.21 patch to seeing a few different items completed in the jungle. Oh, leap in there by Rux, going to take up a bunch of turret shots. Not a win for that trade at all. But like I said, new jungle items, the Stalker's Blade. That is the one that gives you 2 seconds of movement speed slow, as well as some true damage out there. Picked up by Shorter Ace, really helps you land combos, catch up, makes you a lot more stick-to-itivity.
Oh, and it looks like there's going to be a Bush face check into Senpai number 1, Rule 18. Not quite there for the V triple combo, but they're going to go ahead and bubble up.
Bubble landed there onto Zion, but he's got Senpai right there to back him up. And honestly, we were talking about this, the synergy comes from auto-attacking the same champion.
Teleport right in the middle of the action. Zion going to go ahead and run away. I don't think his Valkyrie's ready yet. Senpai flashing over. GGBay is going to go down, though.
Another perfect bubble by Rule 18. He's not just laying down the rules, he's laying down the law down there in the bottom lane. And with bubble after bubble, keeping these kills coming towards Final 5. And the Dragon looks like it's coming their way as well. So big early start here. Final 5 picking that attack boost up, getting now only 6% attack damage and ability power, but still a nice early buff to have.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Rapid, but I love seeing Prototype White just lay in those spears in the Dragon. I just want to see how many the Dragon can take until he's brought down. I mean, really great animation with Kalista there. Always a little bit of an entertainment factor for me. And it looks like Rule 18 is going to go ahead and get back. Doing a great job. 0-1 and 3 again, caught out a little bit with 3 assists. He's going to pick up a Sight Stone and be ready to go here. But again, Corky's Zion still a little bit not quite able to do anything. He hasn't hit that Trinity Force power spike yet, but we'll see that very soon.
I wouldn't say not able to do anything. He grabbed a double kill under turret earlier, but he is down 10 CS, and he has been kind of struggling that lane despite the score that you see from Prototype and Rule. They're down 0-1, but they do have those 3 assists been involved in all of Final 5's kills.
Yeah, nothing much happening outside of the bottom lane here. Again, Easy Dragon was picked up just a minute ago by Prototype White there. Again, 6% damage. It could help them early game. Oh, Shorter Ace barely getting that. Was it Gromp? Was it? Is that what?
Yeah, the Gromp did go down there. You're either hashtag Team Gromp or Team Krug, 2 of the new jungle monsters out there. Senpai going for the dunk down onto Prototype. Summoner heals out there, but not enough to get him out of that situation alive. No longer soul-bound as Rule's down there by himself. He'll have to defend against this 3-man push, coming on with a full minion wave, but no turret damage being put on, instead just choosing to disengage.
And there's that Vi combo we've seen from Senpai number 1 time and time again. The Vault Breaker to the Assault and Battery, just an incredible dunk move there, able to just finish off Prototype White with ease, just as he was beginning to get a lot of assists, a lot of action. He's got the pickaxe. Looks like he's going to take the slow way to build the Infinity Edge, ending with the BF sword there.
Dunk down in the mid lane. Shorter Ace just containing Senpai until Gate can arrive. Last auto attack comes in for the 4th kill of the game. Final 5 really starting and ending these fights, living up to their name there at the mid lane with their 4th kill. Now rotating down around for the blue buff. You can already see Rule knows exactly what to do. Before that mid fight even ended, he was already moving deep for a ward on the blue. But a big fight here, Rux versus Isunari. Even with that damage reduction, Isunari still can't win these fights. Rux actually needs one more auto attack to pick up the win here. Can't dodge it. Oh my gosh, the dodge and the turnaround for Isunari.
Oh my
Comes
God.
in with a kill there after a beautiful outplay on Rux.
That has to be one of the best, just best Maokai turnarounds I think I've seen in a while. Not really taking just all the damage, not really that big of an attacker there, and just gets him just enough under the turret to go ahead and get not only the Twisted Advance off, excuse me.
But yeah, also that last auto attack giving him the magic sap heal. Oh my gosh, just Inertia coming out with a beautiful, beautiful outplay.
And that's what he's known for as the team captain of Inertia, just doing great plays time and time again on Rux, who's been more and more familiar as a Gnar player as time's gone on.
Yeah, honestly, Gnar is a great champion in general, but no matter what champion you're playing, there's outplay potential there, and Isunari made it happen. So a great job to not only dodge that rock coming at him, but get the flash, the twisted advance, the invulnerability from that, and the kill to follow it up.
Looks like there's some action. Then there's a command shockwave, but it's of no avail for Senpai number 2 there as Gate goes away. But it looks like they're on the chase in the northern jungle here. Shorter Ace could be catching Senpai number 1 just out of position.
Stun card, wild cards coming in for a killing spree. There's Gate making us understand why he picked that name. A nice sort of Janna insect there, pushing Rule 18 backwards, but he will come back in with that soul bond, and a couple more auto attacks coming in. Where's the Ren? One more auto, but a summoner heal saves Zion out underneath his turret.
And it seems like that's just like a mobile Zhonya's almost, but not quite 5 seconds long. That is just such a powerful passive to be on Prototype White for, just to get him out of those stickier situations.
Yeah, Zhonya's 2.5 seconds long, but here comes another Gate down behind enemy lines, looking to pick up even more kills. Now, Izanari is in there, but he's got Gnar to back him up, or at least to counter him out there. Rux, of course, disengaging back towards his own team. Gnar there not quite able to pick up the stun into the wall, but follow-up stun from the crunch there. Kill from Izanari onto Rule 18. Senpai still trying to get in there with the damage. Rux going to pick up a kill at long range in mini Gnar form. Senpai will die as Gate goes unstoppable. Now Izanari going to get smoked down. That Stalker's Blade helping Prototype White pick up a kill. Shorter Ace there on a killing spree, and Rux finishing the job on what was a delayed ace, coming in for Final 5.
Wow, just incredible kiting ability by Kalista, but Prototype White with that pickaxe and critical hit chance from the agility cloak, I believe, is able to just work wonders on that powerful Maokai, who is 2-0, but it isn't quite taking enough because he doesn't have the Rod of Ages yet, and he did start with the Rod of Ages, so he's not quite that tanky early on, but definitely almost gets a kill, and a tower for Final 5 as well.
Definitely almost.
Definitely almost.
Interesting to see the strengths exactly where you would have expected them from Final 5. Gate and Shorter Ace doing work. Trying to think exactly where Gate was from. I didn't get his hometown, but the Wonder Kid of Washington putting up some big, big numbers. 3, 0, and 5. And honestly, Stalker's Blade, you can't knock it. It's a little bit interesting. You didn't see it out there all that much before, but it's putting in work here on Shorter Ace's Jarvan. Now coming around for the second dragon, it's going to spawn up here, and as soon as it does, well, you can see Rule 18 already getting some ward coverage in the area, but GG Bay right there to clear it out with a pink ward in the pit. This actually could be a little bit difficult. Prototype White in a little bit of trouble. Senpai looking to go in with a Vault Breaker, tries to flash in and get the knockup, but here's Shorter Ace coming in with a dunk down onto Zion. Smites him out there, so he's actually pretty slow, but a command shockwave keeps Prototype White towards the back. He's actually going to be using the martial cadence to kite towards the fight, but beautiful disengage there from Inertia. You can tell they've got their momentum heading them out of the fight.
Yes, and again, Senpai number 2's command shockwave really got him out there, and not being able to kill that turret early on, already proving to be a little bit of trouble with the double kill for Zion. They got to be careful when diving that bottom turret. It seems to be a little bit of an issue, but because of that backup by Inertia, they're able to clear up the dragon pit as soon as ably possible, and it looks like they may go in. Shorter Ace did proc the dragon for an engage, but nothing will happen as Inertia gets back into position.
A nice boomerang there from Rux, just continuing to keep that slow out there, keep the poke coming out, and Final 5 keep their eyes on this dragon, or as Inertia keep their eyes on the dragon. Final 5, they're looking up the mid lane. They actually just ditched the entire team of Inertia at the dragon. They're like, hey man, you guys can have it.
We'll see you later. I'm going to go ahead and take a tower while no one's paying attention. Big engage with the Vault Breaker, and
Senpai's actually the one to take most of that damage. Bubble up there for Rule 18. He's going to drown him, and look at Prototype White kiting out towards the back. It's Gate going dominating, and engaged through the turret. A Gnar into the wall from Rux to grab another kill, as yet another turret falls down, second one of the game for Final 5.
And where you thought Maokai was going to be able to withstand a good amount of damage with the Vengeful Maelstrom, a 4-on-1 just is not effective enough. I think he got a little excited seeing Prototype White and Rule 18 a little bit low there. Went in, but Gate's stun just finished him off, as well as Prototype's amazing ability to kite with Kalista.
Now, this is where we're seeing a big difference in this Maokai build. Isunari went with a Rod of Ages, and he's been using that extra power to pick up kills, sure, but a divergence from this has been going for a Righteous Glory early. And what that allows you to do is have those extra tank stats to stay alive and be a tank more quickly, instead of waiting for that Rod of Ages to continue to stack up only HP, which is, it's an average tank stat, but it's nothing like the ones that Righteous Glory affords.
And we see Rux going with, again, a more aggressive build with the Hex Drinker, which does give you a good amount of magic resistance and a Brutalizer there. Being able to cut through some armor could be
coming
a
in, but it's actually right onto Zion. Wild cards will come out after the stun, but no follow-up to finish off that kill onto Zion. One thing that gate does allow Final 5 to see is, well, everything out there on the map, all the champions, they know where they're at, and that gives a lot of mobility, a lot of options to Final 5 to know where to go next. Dragon off the field, and Baron not yet spawned means that just a trip out onto the map to pick up some gold before grouping up again for Final 5.
It looks like Gate's going to go ahead and take the blue buff as well. Looks like he's the AD carry for the time being as the support. Rule 18 is just going to go ahead and stick with him. Looks like they're moving towards top lane, and we could see some action middle. Again, mid here is where Senpai number 2 not really doing a particularly bad job, although he is 0-3-1, but has lost both of his towers. We see here both Senpais tied at 0-3-1 here with a little bit low of CS in general, and so hopefully
Rux fighting what he thinks is a 2v1, but as soon as he goes in for that twisted advance, Rux turns on the gas, and one more stun card and an auto attack. Gate going godlike.
Yeah, wow, incredible for Gate there to, with that blue buff, now picks up a red buff, so his cards will be on fire. Now looks like Rux is just going to go ahead and tank down this turret for more global gold, and 4 now. Oh, just kidding, 5 now, 5-1 in overall tower score
now we
here.
saw Inertia lose their very close matchup versus Cognitive to an incredible base race, and you see something very similar happening right now as they're committing to aggression up here in the mid lane, while the rest of their base is actually just dying. You sounded as surprised as I was there to see 5 turrets now down, and while Rux is putting on a lot of additional damage, he's just waiting for the backup. Gate giving him the alley-oop for the kill onto Zion.
And again, maybe he felt more comfortable against a Corki there because of the magic resistance from the Hex Drinker.
He is going so aggressive. Flash over the wall there from Rule 18. He's got the slow from the Tidecaller's Blessing, and Bubble, even though it'll miss, the Command Shockwave will hit onto Rux. There's the Gate right on top of Senpai. Gold card, a legendary. Gate comes in for the kill.
A Gate able to somehow teleport through that boulder that Rux was able to throw. Don't know where the League of Legends physics begins or ends on some occasions. Always love seeing that, of course. Baron will be up in 2.5, and the Dragon just after.
Man, incredible plays here by Final 5, and honestly, this is the Final 5 I expected to see in the upper bracket, but in their series versus Storm, or Storm the Rift, it just didn't look the same. Senpai now, he's going to try to dunk his way out of the fight. Don't ask me how that works, but a Gate that was legendary going 9-0-4 with that kill. He's got more gold than he knows what to do with. Kills just keep coming his way.
I mean, you were down in LA this weekend. You saw Gate at Twisted Fate. It's obviously a black and white difference. What has changed?
Well, the big thing that's changed, I believe, is the caliber of the teams. We've seen consistent issues from Inertia, specifically their mid lane. One of their weak spots in their series versus Cognitive, here versus Gate, a champion a player that literally named himself after the move that his champion has. You can see the strengths and weaknesses meeting there, going way in Final 5's favor.
And a good time to back there with the ward. It looks like Gate and Prototype White are just going to have to go ahead and kite away. Isunari, additional movement speed there. Flashes in for the twisted advance. 3-on-1, but Vengeful Maelstrom up here, and more wild cards will be flown as they just go ahead and kite away Isunari, becoming the tank that Maokai is known to be.
Now, another example there, Isunari was forced to flash and then engage and then couldn't keep Final 5 grouped up enough for his team to follow up. That's what Righteous Glory is made for. You speed yourself up so you don't have to use the flash to get in range for the engage, and then you slow the enemy team to allow the rest of your team to catch up. It's just, the night and day difference between that item and the Rod of Ages. And we already talked about that, but another item to talk about It's the Frozen Mallet on Gnar. Rux bringing back one of the least used items in the game, but one that honestly for Gnar is incredibly effective, because once you hit somebody, you've got Hyper to keep yourself fast, Frozen Mallet to keep them slow. You just can't run away. So Rux really coming up big here in these fights, going 4-1-4. And while it's not quite on Gates' level of 9-0-4, he's still putting up some big scores.
And Gates going to go ahead and pick up one of the most aggressive and cost-effective items in the game, Mejai's Soul Stealer, which is worth almost 10 times its original value if you do get up there in 20 stacks, which is an impressive amount so far. We'll see how that plays out for him. I mean, he already being an aggressive player, but we did see Gate use his Gate just to identify where the enemy players were, but did not teleport. Instead, just backed and picked up that Mejai's.
Yeah, that feel when you really wish you had Mejai's 9 kills earlier.
And 4 assists.
Yeah, the assists getting in there too. Now, Mejai's has been changed, so it starts with 5 stacks, so it's already closer to being gold efficient. A little bit more expensive, but we're looking for an engage here. Senpai in the jungle trying to keep this fight alive in favor of Inertia, but they just can't get it going their way. Senpai is going to die, and while the ball is repositioning, Senpai needs it on himself to keep him from dying to Rux. Now, Gigi Bay will take out a kill on a Prototype, but Shorter Ace is on a rampage, and he's not stopping anytime soon. Bubble comes down for the ace in the base for Gate, picking up that last kill, 23-6. And finally, the first inhibitor falls in favor of Final 5.
This could be the end, but Prototype White was able to be taken down. Again, it all started with Senpai number 2's Command Shockwave, which only hit Shorter Ace for the amount of damage you still see. It looks like this could be game, but no, there's not enough time. Senpai number 1 is back. They're not able to pick up another tower, however, because of the team being back. Twisted Fate, Gate ready to Gate somewhere, not sure where.
He went to the blue buff, and he's going to take that away. He's like, piece the scene, if you know what I mean, and he is out of there. Teleport, though, coming into the ward there. Rux very, very low, and an immediate bubble is actually avoided by the invulnerability from that twisted advance. Gate, with just 5 HP on the disengage, will re-engage with a card of his own. Rux going dominating with some help from Shorter Ace.
And Team Captain Isunari having serious trouble there despite the well-timed twisted advance, unable to get anything happening there. 2 players on Final 5 below 50 HP, unable to take the dragon. They take blue, but it looks like...
Oh, a steal on the Scuttle Crab.
No, you hate to see that. The Scuttle Crab, my friend here, Rapid's favorite jungle character by far. And there it goes, the dragon, uncontested to Inertia.
Now, actually, you can tell by the color on it, it wasn't actually stolen away, even though it looked like that Cloud, the Zephyr from GG Bay, came in and took it away. I thought it was stolen. Unfortunately, it was not, so apologies for jumping the gun there. Even still, it goes down, but more importantly, this dragon also going to get taken out, and that will actually go over to, I think it was, wait, what? Prototype took it out. Okay, well then, wait a second.
Wait, how does that work?
Alrighty then. I guess I missed that. I was focusing on the Scuttle Crab, man. I was feeling for that guy, but that was a steal by Prototype, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. That's their 3rd dragon, giving them the movement speed buff. I didn't even see Prototype there. We were too busy looking at the Scuttle Crab's little ears there just to confirm.
Are those his ears?
Something.
I think they're more like feelers,
well,
right?
Yeah, I guess you're right. They would be an antenna, and that makes sense from a biological perspective, of course, because League is always biological. Because that'll give them the vision, right?
Of course, we only have a robot in the mid lane. How does robot biology work? I don't know about that. But either way, now it's Baron time for Final 5 as they start this one up. They got a Scuttle Crab of their own up there, and even though Baron's big and scary, it doesn't seem to be quite as scary for Final 5. Shorter Ace actually taking the majority of his HP and damage, but the rest of his team's got more than enough. Look at all those spears starting to stick into Baron. It is smote away there by Shorter Ace, who will give his team their Baron buff. And honestly, a Gate coming in here could be used to catch out Senpai right on top of him. And going gold in there, an even more legendary Gate stays alive with another kill.
Wow. Great job there. Again, Gate using the Gate at the proper moments there. They have the buff. Isunari going to be taken down by Rux's Gnar in Mega Gnar mode. Then another tower taken out. Looks like this is going to be a pretty efficient split push here with a 5-on-3 because of the lack of people who are alive. Oh, and she's going to drop the Cataclysm down on Senpai number 2. Command Shockwave's not going to do anything there to help.
Yeah, it pulls Prototype back away from that. But at this point, with Super Minions pushing in, Final 5 are once again in Inertia's base.
Nothing is scarier than Super Minions buffed by the Baron.
Yeah, now pushing it on to the Nexus. This is going to be game number 1 at 24 minutes. 28-6 the score and 10-1 in turrets. Final 5 will take out Inertia.
And just like you said earlier, Reed, this is really the game that the play style we were expecting to see from Final 5 last week.
And absolutely, we saw them play their hearts out this weekend at the North American LCS expansion tournament. And while they may have looked a little bit shaky in the beginning of the North American Challenger League, they're coming back just as strong as ever. So excited to see Game 1 go in their favor. Can Inertia get some Inertia coming into Game 1? We'll be having a replay coming your way. Gate, now you can see him. He's kiting back away from the turret just so that he can get onto Zion. And now the disengage here is where Rux coming in matters the most. Isunari is like, all right, I'm grouping by the turret. Turret's going to protect me, right? Right, guys? Right? Just kidding. You can see the flash away from Rule 18. He's pretty scared. And while Rux will fail his flash over the wall, or fail his jump over the wall, he'll get the flash with the Gnar, the crunch, the combo to lock down Senpai. Just doesn't have any support at all. There's this Isunari trying to get onto Rule, and he will take him out. But the fight just goes from bad to worse here, or from good to bad, rather, for Inertia. Rux is in there, and he's got just enough auto attack damage to take out Senpai, and the rest of the final five off on the back, taking out the other Senpai as Gate comes in big with his 5th kill of the game. Smite down there onto Isunari, using the true damage to get that damage done. Prototype taking him out, and that was the first of what would be many aces for Shorter Ace and the rest of Final 5.
And it seemed to be a theme here for Prototype White and Rux to just constantly be low on health, but still be so incredibly deadly. Kalista's movement speed there, definitely an issue. Same with Rux's ability to just go Gnar and Mega Gnar and be so effective with both melee and ranged here. I expect to see maybe a Kalista ban, but definitely a Gnar ban.
I don't know. We could see Rek'Sai coming out, or any of the new champions in game number 2. That's where we're going to right after a quick commercial break. So don't go anywhere. We've got game 2 between Inertia Gaming and Final 5 coming your way as the North American Challenger League winter playoffs continue right after this. The North American Challenger League Winter Playoffs. My name is Reed Rapid Melton, and joining me is Chase Schaap, coming at you with game number 2 of what is proving to be an incredible series so far. Final 5 coming out of the gates looking strong, in the mid lane. Just a dominant performance by his Twisted Fate, and a great job by Shorter Race and the rest of Final 5 to come out with a Game 1 win.
Yeah, I guess he didn't buy that Medjai Solstier a little late, as he did get at least 5 more kills after that, ending the game, and I believe was 10-0 and like 5 or 6 or 7, something like that. He was involved in everything, and with his gates, he was just everywhere that was necessary. So here we have the picks and bans starting for you right now. Again, 3 bans per team, 3 picks per team, 2 bans per team, then 2 picks per team. So starting off, we have a Lee Sin, Vayne, and Rumble ban, all of which we saw in the first set. So again, pretty textbook. What do you think's coming next?
Yeah, no surprise on the Lee Sin and Vayne. I would expect to see maybe the Lysandra that was banned out in Game 1 with the first 3 bans. Of course, you get 3 picks after that. And, well, Gate actually was the recipient of a lot of mid lane bans, to be honest. He didn't pick a mid lane champion in the first 3 picks, and with the next 2 bans coming out, Inertia targeted both of them at him, but went with a Twisted Fate and dominated with it. Went legendary several times over, and so now I'd expect a Twisted Fate ban at least somewhere in there.
Yes, legendary and godlike, and with that, we could see Gate fall back on different players, and we've seen an Azir over the last weekend. That could happen out of nowhere. Again, Azir was banned last game, so trades are going to be made, and Inertia's going to ban out Aurelia for Rux. So, I mean, he could, again, Nar's still available in Final 5, bans Gnar himself, knowing that Isunari is going to take him off the very first pick.
Rux knows exactly what to go up against, but with that Gnar ban, they actually leave the Lysandra open. Lysandra was actually banned in place of Gnar, so kind of switching that up, and this time it's Inertia that take down one of the strongest champions in top lane, at least against a lot of the meta picks. Has a lot of roam opportunities. The number of times this weekend at the expansion tournament that I saw Lysandra just roam mid, ice path on in, and slide in, not to the DMs, but into the mid lane for a ton of kill potential. So excited to see what that's going to bring out from Isunari. He already had a great top lane game in Game 1 on Maokai, coming in with a little bit of a different feel for the champion.
Yeah, and totally different build as usual. Maokai, obviously of the tankier sort. Could Rux pick him up at this point? Maybe,
oh yeah, you can totally go Maokai against it, but one of the, maybe a counter pick here. This is what's so exciting to see with the Jarvan locked in. I thought, Jarvan, he's only in the jungle, but I remember back in the day seeing Jarvan top lane as a counter to high sustain things like Vladimir, like a lot of things that just want to poke you out and not have to deal with that hard engage.
Yep.
Rux actually did play Jarvan top lane, and that's something you got to be careful for because it is a little bit more of a flex pick. Could go into the jungle on a shorter race again as well.
Yeah, and definitely. And I think we're going to see some huge switch-ups from both senpais on that regard. Well, I mean, obviously, they did not have the best of games combined for many, many deaths and not a lot of kills or assists for that matter. So a big switch coming up here. Of course, the Lissandra was going to go to Inertia because you just see all the bans and all the other ones are so much more necessary. Yes, Lissandra's a good counter pick, but you need to get rid of these Lee Sins, the Vaynes, the Rumbles, the Jaces. So, I mean, in that term, someone's going to get something good. And speaking of something good, our first Rek'Sai of the NACL this winter. Here we go.
Senpai trying to show us if he is the Rex Senpai up there. I don't know exactly what to expect from Rek'Sai because, honestly, he hasn't been even available for all that long.
Nope.
Came out a couple days ago, and now we're already seeing him in the NACL. Going to be really exciting to see what that champion brings out. We'll give a little bit more of an overview as we get into the game, but let's go back and talk about, like you were talking about, strong champions. Rule 18 gets his Janna, and you don't have to close your eyes and try to imagine or divine what pick he's going for, or at least he's going to prioritize Janna, a pick that he almost automatically went to in almost every one of his last games.
And Final Five knows they got to swoop her up quickly. She's an incredibly versatile champion with so much mobility, so much team fight potential, and we saw those team fights come together for Final Five even without the Janna, who fell over to GG Bay because of the pick order. And you see Lissandra's going to fall first, but then 2 more picks for Final Five. It's just a back and forth here, and we see our first Soraka of the day, despite how popular she was not only yesterday, but last week in the NACL.
Yeah, she's going to get locked in for the support, so GG Bay is going to have that one out there. Now, what champion do you pair Soraka with? Traditionally, we've seen a lot of Graves down there, and really with only that 180 carry ban, you could really see a lot out there. But one of the things you have to keep in mind in this pick and ban phase, we do 5 bans here this season, is that if you don't pick a certain role for your champion early on, or a certain champion for a certain role early on, you risk having it very, very heavily focused in the next 2 waves, or in the next wave of 2 bans. So something to keep out there as 80 carry not in those first 3 picks for Inertia.
Yeah, and we could see Final Five pick one up here, knowing that they could exploit this 80 carry issue for Inertia. Again, it could be avoided, it could not. I mean, we'll see. Again, we've seen jungle go for Inertia, we've seen top go, and perhaps maybe even a mid. Oh, and there's Gate at that Azir. And Reed, you saw it firsthand. Tell me about Gates Azir over the weekend.
Gates Azir this weekend was actually really, really interesting to see because I actually talked to him after he had a great game on him, and I was like, dude, how'd you do all those sick Azir moves? And he was like, well, I actually didn't feel very comfortable on Azir. It was a champion that I didn't want to play because I didn't feel I was up to par, and that was after going, I think, 5-1-4 in his first game versus Team Fusion with it. Immediately drew bans on it in the second, or in the next series, or in the next game, and it was just incredible to watch that champion in action. So banned out against him a lot, and actually in the first series as well. It's a champion that he'll have on his team here in game number 2, looking incredibly strong, the team comp for Final Five in game 2.
And in the next series later, Gate was able to go on and continue his Azir kind of on a forte, you could say, coming out of nowhere with getting this time more assists, though, and really great job there. So, I mean, again, Inertia wasn't surprised that we saw an Azir ban the first game. Now, with Twisted Fate still on the table, Final Five is going to pick him up. Now, after our first 6 bans and our first 6 picks, we're going to go ahead and do the second ban phase, starting with Final Five, and that's going to be a LeBlanc. Again, we could see them target Zion at 80 carry, but instead they're going to start with Senpai number 2 at mid.
Now, I'm interested to see if we're going for maybe a focus on picking up an 80 carry like we saw in Game 1, Callista. Obviously doing some pretty incredible things with a Dragon Steel that, while we did miss it, so apologies for that, it's a great performance by Prototype, just dominating with a champion that we haven't seen yet.
No, and of course, I don't know if a ban's going to come. I don't think a lot of things are different. A lot of things are going to be up in the air here as the bans continue. There's a Jinx ban. So, Prototype White, I guess, looking against, I mean, we saw...
A lot more bans coming his way. Yeah, Vayne and a Jinx. Definitely his top 2 picks, but it still leaves open the Caitlyn, a champion that, while maybe not necessarily in your top 80 carry picks, is one that he used to incredibly strong effect this weekend.
And speaking of Jinx, the hyper carry, Prototype White was actually banned against Jinx last week. So after a pretty, run-of-the-mill game from Jinx down low, I mean, definitely a versatile bot pick. And we see the final Zed ban going in again for Senpai number 2. They were going to hit maybe the 80 carries, as Rapid said, but no, they're going to go ahead and attack Senpai number 2 at mid.
Now, the big thing about the Zed ban is that while it does limit Senpai's pool, it further forces this Lissandra pick into being a flex, because maybe you run out of mid picks that you're comfortable with and you want to go for the Lissandra, although I would expect it to be going top lane and still looking for that last mid lane pick. But we have one more ban coming out here from Inertia. We'll see what's going to be the Maokai.
So, I mean, just like you said, we could see Rux stay with that Jarvan 4 up top, a counter pick against Isunari's Lissandra, but maybe not, and they don't want to take any chances here, thinking that shorter Ace is going to go with Jarvan the 4th. So that's leaving Rux open. There's some choices here. Maybe they could switch overall team strategies, but
I feel like that Maokai ban is actually playing into the flexibility of Final Five's champion choices.
I agree.
The Jarvan is something that you have to expect as a possibility up in the top lane, depending on what Final Five need. If there is an opportunity to exploit that Jarvan aggressiveness early on up top, then there's no question Rux is going to pick that one up and might put Inertia in a little bit of a rough spot against Lissandra.
Well, speaking of being in a rough spot, you don't want to be against Nunu running away, because he will just chop you down. And again, a pick we have yet to see in the NACL so far, now seen here for the first time. Shorter Ace feeling, maybe not the Maokai ban being too terrible for Rux, but Shorter Ace feeling comfortable as a Nunu. So we'll see a very, very interesting top half of the Summoner's Rift for Final 5 this game.
Yeah, Nunu, a champion that maybe people didn't expect Shorter Ace to play, but he did bust it out this weekend at the expansion tournament. Had Lulu, Nunu, Noah Mumu, if you want to continue the U synergy.
We did see an Amumu last night, if you were able to catch that. Not the best performance.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the Nunu jungle instead. Good job it's good to see Nunu back out there again. My first experience versus a Nunu on patch 420 included the Poacher's Knife, and while that was an incredibly bad experience for me, it's not an item that you see bought all that often. And so at 4.21, even though the Ranger's Trailblazer jungle item is nerfed a little bit, so it's not quite as high cooldown, is something that we could still see on champions like Nunu to help their early clear.
And a champion we have yet to see for Zion last week or today is Graves, and it is picked there, locked in under the 80 carry position. I don't think it's necessarily against Prototype Whites or to his disadvantage, as all the 80 carries except for Vayne and Jinx are available for Prototype White. So we could see another Kalista. Graves would be a very interesting combo, especially because we already have our supports picked out.
Yeah, and then you can use the Kalista ult to throw Janna behind the champions, and then maybe you throw them into him. She flashes behind, throws you back into him, and you got some sick plays like that. But honestly, I wouldn't expect the Kalista. He's Prototype have proven over and over again that his 80 carry pool is actually pretty large. I was going over the list of champions that he played. He played Caitlyn, Vayne, Jinx, Corki, Lucian, and just about anything else you can throw down bottom. And so it's not really
anything you can think of. I don't know if you had enough fingers to count all the way to Kog'Maw. Wow. Well, one of my favorite 80 carries, and with that snipe, we should see a couple maybe pretty interesting kills out of Prototype White, but one to surprise us as usual. Always love commentating for him.
And there you go. The Kog'Maw locked in for Rule 8 or by Rule 18 for Prototype. It's just going to be a focus on the late game, and while I would have expected maybe a Thresh to come out in the support department, to put up a big box to maybe allow Kog'Maw to kite around, this time it's the Janna. A lot of great peel there, and Prototype's favorite support and one of Rule 18's best champions. A lot of late game here on a Final 5 team that successfully allowed that were successful in having that Jarvan flex pick work out in their favor as a counter pick to that top lane Lissandra. Now, we're still waiting on a mid lane pick, so this could actually be Inertia's time to switch that Lissandra to the mid lane, avoid that counter pick top, and look for something else top lane to work against Rux's Jarvan.
Right, but I doubt that's going to happen as we have an Ari for Senpai number 2, I believe. I mean, I rarely see her in top lane, I think.
Yeah, no, you don't see Ari top top. So that is going to be a mid lane. They're going to let that Lissandra lane go. And, one of the reasons that we've started to see Jarvan come back 2 or 3 times this weekend in the expansion tournament is against that specific matchup. So excited to see how that works out. And the Ari mid, Ari Senpai is actually the name of the highest ranked Ari only player on the Korean server. I've actually seen him stream several times. The account Ari Senpai just crushes everybody. It's really awesome to watch. Several montages. But this Ari Senpai going to be going in the middle lane versus Gates Azir. So a Fox versus a ancient bird chicken thing. I don't know how that matchup works, but in League of Legends, you got to adapt to anything. And biggest adaptation I'm going to see is the Rek'Sai in the jungle being brought out there by Inertia.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen with those tunnels. And, of course, that ultimate, that teleport across the map, that shrieking howl that I hope we can hear from our end because, I mean, that's supposed to scare enemy teams here. I don't know if Final Five's that scared coming after the first game, but they could be with this very intricate team composition that Inertia's laid out.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our final 5 picks for both teams.
Oh, look at that.
For final 5, the biggest thing for them this game is just going to be comfort.
Yep.
The strangest thing on their team is the Kog'Maw, and honestly, with the way that Prototype's been busting out new champions, whether it's Caitlyn, maybe bringing back a little bit of the old, Kalista recently, the first Kalista in the tournament, and now Kog'Maw. It's really exciting to see some new stuff on both sides of the rift for both teams. So excited to get this game underway, and I gotta ask you, Chase, what's your thoughts on these picks and bans?
I mean, I love Kog'Maw, so Prototype White going well. I think Final Five again, really looking towards late game here. I think their laning phase, I mean, it could be powerful. It's really up to Inertia to really challenge them here with a completely new set of champions here. That I mean, we'll see what we see. I mean, Rek'Sai there. I mean, Lissandra's a good pick. I mean, Ahri middle. I mean, I don't know. We could go talk about this for hours, but for now, we're gonna go ahead and let the players go ahead and load in, so we can start talking about the stuff that actually matters and the stuff that we're actually gonna see.
So we'll take a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere because when we come back, we'll have what could be the last game of the night with only one more win needed for Final Five to advance on in this lower bracket. Don't go anywhere. The NACL Winter Playoffs will return right after this.
era of metal has begun, and metal shall prevail. For we know what they have done. 5 legends of our realm who sought to follow the path of their dark musings. But they did not know what they had summoned. Pentakill. To these creatures, there is but one thing left to do.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the North American Challenger League Winner Playoffs. We're here in the lower brackets, so winner continues, loser goes home. My name is Rapid, with me is Chase, and we're hopping in, like I said, game number 2. Our first Callista pick happened in game 1. First, Rek'Sai coming out on a Summoner's Rift here in game number 2.
And just like you said, winner of this game will go on to play Zenith Esports tomorrow, and the loser is out. So all bets are off. Here, we need to see Inertia just gain that momentum, ironically enough, to beat this game. And perhaps that momentum could come from Rek'Sai. I mean, great skin, but what do you think, Reed?
Well, to go over Rek'Sai, for all of you who haven't had a chance to play her or see what her abilities do, essentially she's got a very distinctive global ultimate, the Void Rush. She gets a ton of attack speed off the passive, but when you activate it, you teleport to a tunnel entrance. And tunnels are Rek'Sai's big definitive skill. She can also burrow underneath the ground for additional mobility and a whole different moveset. But now we got to start out with this level 1 fight. Senpai Zion and, well, wait, the other Senpai are chasing Gate out of their own jungle, so Inertia with a good defense there, but Shorter Race already thinking about some early invades, putting a ward at the enemy blue.
Wow, well, great job so far in just zoning out the right people. Senpai here. Again, we could see a lot of tunnels for a lot of mobility through stuff, around stuff, all sorts of stuff happening there for Rek'Sai. And I don't know, that could be it could be definitive change here in the amount that Inertia is able to control the map if the tunnels are appropriately used and if that Void Rush, which will get out that cry, be used properly.
All right, so Senpai in the jungle will start with Rek'Sai's Q ability called Queen's Wrath. It allows her to power her auto attacks, get some extra ones of those out there because it is an auto attack reset. Helps her early on in the jungle, and Rek'Sai really designed as a jungler, so totally at home in that environment. But for Shorter Ace, starting at the Krugs and actually going down to the red buff second, it'll actually be a skip on the red buff for Rek'Sai as Senpai starting at the small camps before progressing on to what I believe is going to be the blue.
Well, what's interesting about Senpai is her ability to heal herself. She can burrow as soon as she gets to level 2 and gets the E, and then is able to heal however much rage. Oh, sorry, the burrow's W, but he's able to heal by burrowing and taking away the rage, as you see right in front of you, slowly, and able to get as much health as possible. So going from the Krugs to the Wolves to blue buff.
All right, so an interesting jungle path nonetheless, and it's more straightforward for Shorter Ace. He starts at the top and is just working his way down through the jungle on Nunu. Now, it's going to be interesting to me is to see the effect that Shorter Ace wants to have on this game. Do you just sit around in the jungle and farm things up? Do you try to counter jungle? Or do you go for those very effective Ice Blast ganks early on? It's just farming things up for now, but the biggest difference that I want to point out is the Battle Cast Kog'Maw skin in the bottom lane for Prototype. That just looks so awesome. First thing I'm going to do after this game is go buy it. It's pretty friggin' cool. Kind of like the Kog'Maw pick in general. Prototype bringing out something new in both games tonight.
Now, they have to be careful there for Prototype White and for Rule 18. So luckily, I guess Jan's movement speed and shield will help in this regard. But Prototype White is out of an escape. He's pushing his E last. It looks like he might W twice first. So he has no E. He has no ability to escape besides just flashing out. But he does pick up the Summoner's Exhaust and is able to get away that way, perhaps.
That's something unique to Prototype, is bringing Exhaust on AD carries. You know you're going to get jumped on, especially as an immobile AD carry like Kog'Maw, so you expect to be able to use that Exhaust Summoner spell to be able to keep yourself safe from any bursts coming your way. And that does put the heal from on Rule 18. You can still give the move speed and the healing to your ally. And now actually a little bit of aggression as Shorter Ace coming down to the bottom lane, makes a little bit of a rotation towards Senpai in the jungle. We're gonna see Nunu versus Senpai. Is Rek'Sai the ideal jungler enough to take him down? Flash over the wall from Shorter Ace. Keeps him alive.
Looks like the burn isn't going to save him, and that bite's definitely going to heal him back up again as the turtle almost goes down. Senpai still looking to engage.
Oh, and Shorter Ace actually didn't kill that Scuttle Crab. Let it go with just a few HP, and that'll allow Senpai to kill it for a little bit of additional early game vision.
Now, it is important to mention that in unburrowing, Senpai is able to knock up very briefly the enemy. So very important when you're trying to just get in there and engage. And originally, you're going to want to go in unburrowed when you have the very small vision as Senpai number 1, and then you pop up and then hit him for the rage.
And that is actually something interesting, unique to Rek'Sai, is that when you're burrowed, you actually have no vision outside of being able to see little tiny pings is where, monsters, minions, and champions are. So you can't actually see when you're burrowed outside of your long-range sensory perception.
Immediate vicinity there. And what's interesting is if you are able to walk, see Rek'Sai come in and then stop.
Man. Top
he won't
lane.
see you.
Yeah, if you stop, Rek'Sai can't see you, but Jarvan and Shorter Ace can see you no matter where you are when they're in the area. First blood for Rux after a great gank. Shorter Ace coming in for at least an assist on the first blood for Final 5.
And then you see Isunari getting pretty aggressive there off the bat. He teleports all the way back but is unable to escape. Again, we see Final 5 have a lot of emphasis on stopping Isunari at the source being as soon as humanly possible in this game. And we see that there. And again, we've seen great Equinoxes from not only GG but from a lot of different champions. So GG Bay conventionally used Braum last week, and we'll see how well her ability to stop the enemy team is. And there's that Senpai number 1, Rek'Sai Unburrow.
Being stopped at the source. The source also coach for Final 5, so interesting to see some synergy there. But interesting, and not quite as interesting as both the Kog'Maw pick that's working out really well, and the early back from Senpai used to buy that Stalker's Blade for some extra crowd control. Really love that early back. Gives you so much effectiveness on your early ganks. I say an early because we're only 6.5 minutes into this game, and we're already starting to see some action from the jungle. Already had Rek'Sai down bottom lane, Jarvan and Shorter Ace up top on his Nunu, and just a lot of jungle action. This is the kind of game I like to see, with both junglers looking to have an early effect on the lanes instead of just power farming things up. And
Prototype White's going to go ahead and back up, so Shorter Ace is going to take his spot a little bit, make sure that they don't go anywhere close to that tower. Now, Kog'Maw is interesting here. You're going to start with the Trinity Force because he wants that same power spike just like Corki as soon as he gets that first item. Now, he's an auto-attack reliant champion, especially when queued with his W. So what you really need to do is make sure you get just general statistics in there for attack speed and attack damage before you even start to become aggressive.
All right, we haven't actually touched on this mid lane at all this entire game. It's been Rek'Sai this, Kog'Maw that, but for the Azir versus Ahri matchup, one of the coolest things to do is to see this level 6 is where we find ourselves. Will this Emperor's Divide come out where Gate needs it to? He's going to try to jump back to his Sand Soldier, push everybody away, and Senpai actually dashing straight into the Emperor's Divide, getting bounced back, but double teleport in, as we're going to see the Cavalry arrive for Final 5 Rux, taking out Senpai's Ahri and making it a 1-for-1.
And with Rek'Sai's Burrow, he does gain increased movement speed here, and you can actually even see the interesting little circle pings from Rule 18 moving around here. It doesn't look like this is going to be a contested dragon, but here's Zion. Could get a possible steal,
he does
but he's
have
not
enough burst over the wall to try to take it, but it's really hard to take down objectives from a Nunu, as it'll be Shorter Ace with the first dragon given over to Final 5.
And Isunari taking advantage of this and just poking down the tower a little bit. Now, last time he was here, we saw the jungle Shorter Ace come in real hot, able to attack and take advantage of Isunari's aggression, and we'll see if that happens once more. Again, be careful here of Rux, who is 2-0, leading the entire scoreboard.
And what's actually interesting now is that Gate is swapped up the top lane. Talk about that a little bit later. Shorter Ace coming in. Last bit of the mana actually spent on using an Ice Blast. He uses his Clairvoyance, the passive, to get a free cast on his ultimate, even though he was out of mana. Tries to slow down Zion and GG Bay, but too much healing to go down.
Excuse me. It could have been a different story if Prototype White had his ultimate up for the ultimate poke as it's referred to, at least by me.
I said clairvoyance
Kog'Maw.
earlier just to clarify, but I meant visionary. It's an interesting name there. I don't say it too often, so apologies for that. But the bigger thing that we saw there is the Graves and Soraka strength. I saw a couple of comments in chat before this game. It's like, why would you pick a Kog'Maw into a Graves Soraka lane? That lane is so strong early on, but really unable to keep Prototype White down. He is down about 20 CS, so that's the synergy there. But GG Bay actually forced the flash away. One more Bio-Arcane Barrage might have been enough to take him down, but already a lot of aggression. Prototype and Rule laying down the law.
And we see one of the first spikes for, well, most champions as always, but for Prototype White with that Bio-Arcane Barrage is able to just do a lot of damage here. And now it looks like that this Graves-Soraka combo could be a little bit out of luck, as GG Bay is too low to be able to heal Zion effectively enough to not die.
No, she's still got a lot of health, so the heals could come out, but it's probably going to be safe and sound for now. What interesting is you'll start to see out on the map in spectator mode is that you can actually see every single tunnel that Rek'Sai makes out there. Prototype continuing to hit these Bio-Arcane barrages, continuing to chunk out onto GG Bay and Zion. But like I said, tunnels for Rek'Sai allow so much map movement, and you'll actually see some Rek'Sais have seen build mobility boots so that they can just have incredible presence out there on the map. Now, that's not what we've seen so far. Still going for some more aggression, but just look at Senpai continuing to use that burrowed form to come down towards the bottom half of the map. We'll actually wrap around behind the turret just to try to keep it alive while Zion and GG Bay take a trip back to base.
Yeah, and I don't think Prototype White's going to have necessarily either enough mana or enough attack here underneath the tower to do anything to stop the defense of Senpai #1 here. But we'll see what happens there. It looks like Isunari running a little bit low again, but he was able to stop Rux in...
Stop him in his tracks, take him down, and that's not what's supposed to happen here. Traditionally, as Rux, you would have enough aggression to be able to limit that, but mid lane, we've got some action going in as Gage, Shorter, Ace, and Rule are chasing Ahri outside of the... Wait, what? I don't know about that. Had the heal from Soraka, tried for the 1v2 all-in, had Ignite on the gate, and one more damaging spell would have been able to take him out, but not quite enough, and that'll be the third kill of the game for Cognitive.
And Gate's going to go ahead and pick up...
I said Cognitive because I was looking at Gate, but it is actually Final 5.
And Gate's going to go ahead and pick up the blue buff there, giving him just a little bit more presence mid. It looks like Rek'Sai being the ultimate defender of towers here. Oh, hold on. Zion almost dead here. Prototype White out of mana, though. So is Rule 18. Doesn't look like anything's going to happen here.
They're not considering Zion's effectively infinite health pool with GG Bay continuing to drop those heals on him. One after another, Prototype fighting for all of his might, but not enough to chunk through those Soraka heals.
No, and Zion's going to go in instead. Now he's the one out of mana, but Rule 18 is going to quickly back up. As we have two people, looks like Short Ace is going to sneak in on Isunari here. Pretty evenly matched battle here. And we'll see
Rux
what is to come as the gank is just going to come in real hard as soon as Isunari goes. I don't even think he has any idea.
Keep in mind, there is a tunnel up there behind Isunari's turret. So at any point in time, Senpai can just go ahead, drop his Void Rush, and come up top lane in a big, big way. But he's actually all the way on the other side of the map, taking down the first turret of the game, actually going to go over to Inertia. We talked about how Ignition earlier had trouble taking down turrets. That's not something that Inertia has struggled with. Inertia, we talked about their earlier games, their series versus Cognitive, and if you guys missed that, then you don't want to miss it. You need to go back to there and watch that one of the closest base races I've ever seen. Inertia wound up losing that, of course, but they have no problems taking early turrets, and you saw it right there against Final 5, who won Game 1 in a dominant fashion, now kind of struggling those global objectives as the gold tied right back up at even.
So Shorter Ace looked to be going back after trying to gank Isunari top, but here a lot of health going down for the tower that Gate is trying to attack. Again, just constant barrage of all three outer towers against Inertia for Final 5 here. And we'll see what is to come as the Dragon is up in 45 seconds.
All right, now GG Bay is running away from Shorter Ace. As Dragon, like you said, it's up soon, but the interesting thing to notice here is where we're going to see the top laners play into this, both with teleport, but as soon as this Dragon happens, a couple of interesting things are going to happen. You're going to have the dynamic top lane where they try to stop each other from being effective at that dragon fight. You have the dynamics between the junglers, Shorter Ace better at smiting dragons down, but Senpai by far the more mobile, able to get across the wall with tunnels, able to just have that mobility to get in there for possible steals, even though it's difficult versus things like Nunu's dunk in onto Isanari top lane. Ruck's going to take the full burst from Lissandra. Can he follow up for a kill? Continual. Hughes coming out. Isanari going to get knocked up, but one more auto attack is all it's going to take. Ruck's running for his life, trying for the auto attack, but there is the Ring of Frost. Isanari taking him out.
Wow, Isanari really making a comeback in that lane on a Rux who was 2-0, who was kind of roaming a little bit there.
Diving through there, looking for the steal. It's Shorter Ace to pick up the dragon. Senpai still alive thanks to those GG Bay heals, and actually other Senpai, the RA, able to Spirit Rush right back over the wall. So a steal attempt there for Inertia, unsuccessful, but no deaths for their team. The only death that time was a Rux in the top lane, but still another dragon going to Final 5.
I have to give props here to Isunari, who, again, coming after a Rux who's 2-0 and just completely changing the top lane in his favor. Again, 2 kills in a row. He's got everything he needs to make anything happen here, and both TPs available, again, for both top laners.
Prototype versus Zion. Too much damage from that Sheen. You can really see the power there, but already the Void Rush. I was like, what on earth is that noise?
And that's
it's
exactly what I was talking about here. He's just going to go ahead and build up that rage against the red buff, but using it just to get on the map quicker. I mean, Void Rush doesn't do anything but teleport you there, and it does give you that attack speed. So very interesting. Again, we saw Zion go one-on-one with Prototype White. It looks like it's not going to happen without the heals from GG Bay.
And we saw the top lane be a turnaround. Actually, bottom lane is where the action's at. Senpai going to rush on in here. Will he unburrow in time? Gets the knockup on a Prototype. There's no turret there to keep him alive. Senpai, though, might need some help keeping himself alive. He'll back off from the Kaguma burst. Engaged in the top lane, though. Ruck's gonna get entombed up there, but Isanari might be the one to go down. Still chasing very, very low on mana. Ruck survives thanks to that Hex Drinker, but man, is that top lane ever close.
Yeah, wow. I mean, Isunari is really just changing the name of the game here. And it looks another auto attack off, and wow, just absolutely demolishing him. Trying to wait for Shorter Ace, who will come in and clean up.
One more auto attack, and the ice path not ice pathy enough, not slippery enough. There we go, to allow Isunari to slide on out of there. Senpai is still in the area looking for some potential gank possibilities, but can't quite find him. His gate is playing off towards his blue.
Yeah, and it looks like here that Shorter Ace, even though he's down a tower, has picked up his Trinity Force. We'll see if this one-to-one tower game will change. It obviously will as time goes on, but 16 minutes in, and this has been the closest match all day, I think.
Definitely 4-4, and you even see the goal at dead even. Attempted engage here, or attempt at taking down this mid turret. Not going to be possible. But Shorter Ace top lane, he's doing a good job chunking things out there. We'll pick up the second turret of the game here for Final 5 as the rest of them look to siege mid. Now, the middle turret's already gone, but you can still see if Senpai getting a knock up on a Rule 18. Not sure where he's going. He's trying to get back there. GG Bay, last auto attack from Prototype to take him down. So that'll be a nice 5th kill to break that tie in kills. But bigger thing is Rux teleporting mid means that he's still in here looking to join Final 5 on their push.
A little bit of a late TP, though, here. I don't think they're going to be able to get this tower off, but again, doing a great job of zoning out the enemy team and keeping up that aggression. Looks like they're going to go after top tower. I don't know if Inertia's going to get there in time.
Well, I don't know, but I've been told that top lane turret is losing HP. Couldn't finish it, but
almost.
Looking for Senpai to come in. No charm to land. Prototype doing a good job kiting back, and Shorter Ace, he's got more than enough snowballs coming in. There's actually gonna ult, and Rux is there to take down Isunari. Turret now very, very low, but Prototype
right in trouble underneath. Flash out anyways. Oh no, it wasn't. It was the silence.
But he will still get in there for a lot of additional true damage. Rux has a ton of HP, and the health bars are low. And actually, whoa, Sand Soldier from Gate taking out Tyon. The jump back into the fight. Emperor's Divide just being used to zone out away from the turret, taken down by Shorter Ace.
Do you think it would have been a different call, and not necessarily to critique Gate's great play, but to Emperor's Divide towards them, because the tower was pretty close to going down? Do you think that could have been an option there?
Probably an option. I like the use of the Emperor's Divide defensively, though, to zone out and just allow them. It looked actually really aggressive, but then you realize it's not a damaging skill. I guess it does deal damage, but it's mostly just used to separate things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of separating things, the tower game is now clearly in Final 5's favor.
Yeah, it's 1-4 now, kind of out of nowhere, exploding.